show. Call for your cum, I be checking through the peephole. Everything closed this late, but your contact. Hit a catch a vibe, you might catch a little contact.
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome back to A.C.E Podcast Nation. Welcome back to Eat Sleep Media for another episode of my story. And I'm delighted to welcome back, technically, but you guys won't know that, but I do. It's a Welsh boxer ahead of his fight in a matter of days. Mr. Kyran Jones, how are you, mate?
How are you, Steve? Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having me back in, I should say. But yeah, it's good. It's good to be here. Good to get a podcast.
Yeah,
and I
mate.
appreciate, obviously, the advertisement and the promotion.
Oh, mate, it's good. I was looking forward to it. It's gutted because obviously we did one before and it was really good. We had a good crack like for the whole hour. We were like laughing and joking, and then I can't even remember what happened, but something happened. And didn't see the light of day,
Yeah.
and such is life. But there we go. So we get to do it all over again. So like obviously we're going to talk about you and your fight career and your boxing and your fight coming up as well. But like I guess I'd like to start with. Do you know what? Instead of going with the usual and was like start with, how did you know, what was you like as a kid and that, let's flip it on its head, and we'll start somewhere completely different. YouTube boxing, is it good or bad for boxing? Put you on the spot straight away.
I'll be honest, I think it's bad, because people it's taking the light from professional boxing, and being a professional boxer. Yeah, I think it's put a bad influence on it, to be honest with you. Don't get me wrong, they bring in big crowds and they bring in big pay packages, but
boxers are not seeing those
the boxers are not
packages,
seeing that then, are they? And the guys like myself, the prospects, the guys who are coming through the amateur pedigree, the amateur days, and dedicating their life to the sport, to be boxing on these small road shows. Don't get me wrong, that's the traditional route, and that's the route I think you should definitely go through, to learn your trade. But these guys that come into the sport from not even a boxing background, or come into the sport training for a few months, and then get on these big platforms and these big shows, and I just think it's putting a bad influence on professional boxing, and putting a bad influence on us.
Well, the key word for me, mate, is professional, isn't it? Because to be a professional at anything is how you conduct yourself, how you train, how you prepare, how you're organised, how you go about your business. And like I watched some of these, I see clips on social media, should I say, because I don't watch it, but like I see clips on social media of like the press conferences and the build-ups to it and stuff, and it's some of them are like shambolic, like they're shambolically organised and done, but also like the behaviour of the people who are fighting, like again, you've got to self-fight. You know, I understand that, like Conor McGregor's one of my favourite fighters to watch. Like he's the king at it. Yeah. But like also he knows when to conduct himself like a professional as well. Yeah. You know, there's a time and a place sort of thing, and I don't know. I don't like it, but I can see why kids like it or like young people like it. But it's not about like if you're good at boxing. It's about how many followers you've got.
That's it,
and there was a guy, who was it? I watched a clip literally yesterday of some guy, and like he'd had a fight on one of these misfit cards or whatever, and he kind of embarrassed himself, and he'd become like a bit of a meme on social media because he was like flailing his arms around or whatever. So then in his next fight, he catches this guy with a punch, and the guy goes down, and then he carries on hitting him like while he's on the floor, he's just repeatedly hitting him in the face before the ref gets it. And I'm just like, where do you draw the line? Like, because that's someone's going to get hurt then,
it's
isn't
a
it?
bit too
like,
far in the end, isn't it? Even like the press conferences and stuff, and was it John Fury flipped that table the other day? It just feels all staged, and
it does, doesn't it?
On times it feels a bit fake, and like I said, staged. But then on times it's gone, it's going a bit too far. And like we said, professionalism, not just in the ring, but it's out the ring, and they're not showing that. So in essence, they're bad role models, and they're negative role models on the youngsters coming through the amateurs. They're thinking, is that right? Is that wrong? and it ain't, is it? So, yeah, I think they're just bad role models on boxers and grassroots coming through as well.
And the thing is as well is like you're right there is like the kids who are coming through at grassroots level is if they see these guys who they haven't fought before and then in their mid-20s 30s suddenly because they got a big following they're getting like a highly paid fight in there, they're gonna go more towards the social media side of things rather than the hard work and going through the amateurs and going through that, and then you lose like a skill element. Like I don't think it would happen, but potentially if that was the route which more and more kids take to get into to get a payday through boxing, you could have a thing in 20 years where the amateur scene is decimated and the quality of the boxers coming through that scene
100%.
wouldn't be as good as what they are now. Like the reason it's so competitive now at that level and the world championships and things like that as an amateur is because there's so many fighters from around Europe and the UK and the world.
There's so much talent coming through, whereas like you said, if that talent stops then it's
everyone takes a
shortcut. Exactly. And the standard of boxing drops, doesn't it? So by these YouTubers coming in, these influencers coming in and taking over the sport. And that's what he's doing at the moment, isn't it? Is taking over the sport. I think it's all politics and money talks at the end of the day, and it's just taking.
So this is the thing, right? Is like I've got a bit of a bugbear, which I've mentioned a few times. I had a conversation with Kyran Jones when he was in here about it. Like I find it a bit offensive and a bit frustrating that like boxers have to sell tickets to get on their cards and stuff. I think it's so wrong, and I think it's like the only sport really which you have to do that. Like every other sport, you kind of progress based on talent, and if you keep fulfilling that talent and potential, you keep rising through the ranks and you become a bigger star and etc. etc. Obviously with a bit of luck along the way and stuff like that. But there is this thing in the lower levels of boxing whereby you have to sell tickets, and if you don't sell your tickets you don't get on the cards because no one will have you on the cards, and then it becomes a thing of like, well, it's almost like a popularity thing rather than you're forced to use you have to use social media because unless you've got 200 friends and family who are going to buy a ticket every time you fight, which don't get me wrong, like you and other guys like Brandon and these guys, you've got your hardcore friends and family who will follow you wherever you go, innit? And then there'll be some like offshoots of that, people who know them who will come to some. But if you're someone who's got, I don't know, it's like a proper hypothetical, but like if you're someone who has not got a family or has got a very, very small family and isn't particularly sociable and haven't got like a massive group of friends, like you're already at a disadvantage. You could be the best boxer that's come, in the last 50 years. So I think that's something which needs to be addressed or fixed, but it all comes down to like financing, and this is the problem with the YouTube thing is that they've got the funding, haven't they, with people like Jake Paul who got so much money that they're able to, and I do I nearly separate Jake Paul from the YouTube side of things because I think he at least tries to, he seems to want to be a professional boxer.
Yeah, he trains hard and
he works.
He has that structure in place. He don't just turn up to the fight.
He
seems like a student to the game kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, I don't agree with some of the things he did do, outside the ring. But he goes to the gym, he trains hard, he lives the life, looks apart, and you can see the improvements in his fights as well. Do you know what I mean? He's
just doing that part of his career on a bit of a more world stage, I suppose, than others.
But the negative thing about this influence, these influencers and this YouTube taking over the sport is being encouraged by the bigger platforms now. It's going on DAZN, whereas I personally think that it shouldn't be like Eddie and that shouldn't be promoting these shows, because it's just bringing encouragement, and professional boxing is
legitimizes it, doesn't it? When you see the DAZNs of the world or Matchroom or whoever, like Eddie Hearn, it can be anyone, Frank Warren, like any of those kind of world-renowned names of boxing historically, if they're promoting a show, people will, to a certain extent, buy it off their name.
Yeah, exactly.
If you've got a DAZN subscription and you're a boxing fan, and then it's like Saturday night boxing, well, that's why I've got my DAZN subscription. Do you know? So it's, and it legitimises that side of it. But then also, like, I feel like a certain responsibility as someone who's like speaks to a lot of boxers and MMA fighters and stuff like this. So I produce a boxing podcast called Sugar and Silk. So I'm not on it, but I do all the tech side of it. It's on every Sunday. And it's Ben Doty and Michael Olajede Jr., who's a professional boxer from like the 80s and 90s in America. And they're very traditional boxing fans, like very. And they, particularly Ben, like he won't address it. He won't talk about Logan Paul. He won't. I think he talked about it once. There was a reason for it.
Yeah.
And they basically said, like, I'm not going to talk about it again. And as far as they're concerned, or certainly Ben's concerned, Tommy Fury has effectively decided that he's going to be a YouTube boxer rather than a professional boxer. Yeah. And look, good for him. He's chasing the bag, as it were. But like, I think boxing podcasts and boxing shows, radio shows, TV shows, whatever, the only way to kind of, if you're like me or what you're saying, and you want boxing to stick more to what it's good at and traditionally has been about, you have to almost do that. You have to make a stand and say, well, that's fine. They've got their thing. Yeah. And you know, there is a place for YouTube boxing, but let's call it what it is. It's YouTube boxing. It's not the same.
I think you should keep it separate to professional boxing.
Yeah,
it's overlapping at the moment.
It's not professional boxing.
Yeah, putting a bad effect on pro boxing, which I think is wrong, like we said.
And then if you separate it, so like for instance, say BBC Sport, you know, historical British Broadcasting Corporation, whatever, covered sport for hundreds of years or whatever long it is. Like, to me, they shouldn't be covering. It's taken them long enough to cover the UFC. Yeah. Like, so let's cover a real sport in the UFC, and they don't cover, like, for instance, the WWE or like wrestling, because it's not a professional sport. No. So don't cover YouTube boxing, and then maybe then you can separate it, and you can kind of have the YouTube boxing over there, but traditional boxing.
I remember going back to when Josh Taylor boxed Lav Ramirez. Obviously the final winner of the boxing series, and it was like a unification fight, and that weren't televised. They weren't on box office. But then a week before, I'm sure it was a YouTube influencer show, whatever you want to call it, on DAZN, and that was the turning point for me, where I completely went against it, because Josh Taylor against Ramirez was a pound for pound top elite fight, and for that not to be with a good undercard, without not to be shown
shocking
live or on a TV platform, not even box office, was like I said, was the turning point, and I went against it. I was against it anyway. But after that like point, I was thinking, that's put a bad influence on pro boxing.
The thing is, there's so many platforms that could show a fight like that, even if it's not on a DAZN or a Sky or a BT. There's like the Fight app, and there's all sorts of these apps which cover fighting and different sports and that. I find it a little bit frustrating. I do, because I've seen firsthand, like, watching some of the Welsh MMA fighters trying to get the BBC to cover them it's insane. Like, there was a time when Jack Shaw was fighting, and it was like a massive fight. He was fighting on one of the biggest UFC cards of all time, and they're having to chase BBC Wales to do an interview, and it's like,
they shouldn't have to do that, should
they? Come on now. It's like the Welsh. You're supposed to be. Your job is to cover Welsh sport.
The exposure should be there on the plate for talent like that, shouldn't it?
Of course it
should.
Jack's
always putting Wales on the map.
At the time, was the only Welsh fighter in the UFC.
In the UFC.
Shout out Oban Elliott.
Shout out Oban. Congratulations to him. Hard work pays off.
Exactly,
and, what a performance. Really good performance.
It was wicked, wasn't it?
And it's good to see there's more fighters like that, putting Wales on the map, putting Welsh fighters in the UFC, and where they belong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The talent, and the hard work speaks for itself, and it always pays off in the end, doesn't it? And fair play to him, man. Take my hat off to him.
Yeah, he's a top man as well. He's a really
He's
good
a great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy. We do S&C at the same gym and the same coach. Shout out to Daily on Fitness and Dale up at the great S&C coach, and being surrounded by them guys is great, and seeing obviously Oban doing well I was chuffed for him, really chuffed.
Yeah, he's been up and down, had a bit of an up and down few years, and there was a point, I think probably about 2 years ago, no, maybe a bit less, where he looked like he might have to retire and that because of health problems.
Yeah.
So to come back, and then obviously I think he had a big fight in Cage Warriors which he didn't win, where I think the winner was kind of going to go and be in the UFC. So then to go and do that, and then the way the second round had gone in that fight, and when you're in that, a 3-round fight where if I win this, I'm probably going to be in the UFC. But if I shit the bed, so to speak, that's it.
So much on the line, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure.
And then to lose the second round and get knocked down, to then come back in the third round and just decimate.
To show the resilience he did was incredible, and that's his testament to the shape he was in going into the fight, both physically and kind of mentally as well. Like it was just said, there was so much on the line, and when you're in that second round and you're getting caught with shots and you're hurt, and he was out on his feet, wasn't he? For him to come back after that, the mental resilience and the physical resilience he showed was incredible, and it was something us fighters look up to, and he deserves everything which comes his way. Oban, he's a great guy, and still works as well, works full time on the rails. So it's a credit.
It's funny, innit, because you'll have people who don't know him or don't know his story or haven't watched any of his fights. They all say, he didn't look, he got knocked down or whatever in the second round. He's obviously not up to much, and this, that, and the other. But actually, when they stick a microphone in front of him, they'll see I think he'll have a similar rise to people like Paddy the Baddy, because people will gravitate to him because he's quite infectious when you speak to him and that, and he's got a personality, but he's also got the skills and the ability to just kind of back it up. So I'm quite excited to see it. I'm excited because like I said at the start, Wales is really bad at promoting its fighters, its music. There's guys on the music scene in Wales which, if they lived in Birmingham or Manchester, they'd have already been signed to multi-million-dollar record deals and all the rest of it. Got Merkage for one, he's got millions of views on his songs, and he does he put something out the other day, his Spotify numbers, and it's just insane for someone who's literally doing it. Him and his missus do the sort of t-shirts and the rest of it, and then he does obviously the music with the different studios and that. But Wales just doesn't seem to do a good job of promoting it. For such a small place, there's so many talented people in the different fields, but it's impossible.
They're lacking that exposure, which is what you need, to get noticed. And you said that the Wales got so much talent in all fields, and if we had that exposure, it'd be 10 times better, wouldn't it? Yeah,
but then on the other side of things, the worst thing is when you do, so say for a podcast, right, for something like this, I've had a whole range of guests on. So say I have a guest on, so I had the Cardiff City chairman on, I've had him on a few times. Mine's the only podcast he does, and I've had him on, I think, every year for the last 3 years. And he does it live so people can ask him questions, and he never turns down a question. And at least twice, someone from Wales Online, who will remain nameless, has taken quotes from it, but they kind of framed it as his. And it's it doesn't take much to just go,
of course not.
So-and-so was on so-and-so.
Yeah.
But and people called him out on it, but to me, it's I think that's almost part of a bigger problem, in that you've got a status quo of people, whether it's in sport or media or music or whatever it may be, football, whatever. You've got the status quo, and they are comfortable and used to being the guys, if you like, or being the guys who get all the attention and the interviews and
Yeah.
whatever it may be, and then they don't want to give that up to the people who are coming
Yeah.
through, or people who are doing a bit of additional work, or it's just a weird thing, like, to me, because I think you can achieve more if you lift people up, and you'll like, particularly in media, I think like when I think of all the people I've been lucky enough to speak to and have in here or speak to online, and I think like if someone from BBC Wales or from Wales Online or anywhere like that said, "Oh, we saw your thing with Kyran, can you put us in touch with him so we can have a chat with him, or can we pinch like 5 minutes of your podcast to put on the website and that?"
It's like streamlining and
it benefits everyone, doesn't it?
Partnerships, 100%.
But it just, there's like there's a circle.
Yeah.
And if you're not in that circle, you kind of got to find a way to force your way in.
But then they want to, like you said, they want to take quotes out there.
Yeah.
If we all work together, then it'll be a bigger outcome, won't it? So,
yeah, and you can promote, and then that's how you end up going outside of Wales,
yeah,
and
exactly.
you can build it up bigger.
A bigger success then, won't it?
Spot on. But it's funny, like you said about Oba and having the mental strength and the resiliency to kind of have a bit of a nightmare second round and then come through it is. Like often, like speaking to trainers, like I've had Gary in a couple of times, and other people like boxing trainers and MMA trainers. It's like you get like so obviously I used to do the show with Danny, the MMA and boxing show, and he does training, and he says like you get the guys who come in, and there's like they'll come into the gym or they'll come into the training, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I want to learn MMA or I want to learn boxing. And you're like, okay, have you got any experience? So I know where to put you and who to put you with and this and that. And, oh yeah, no, I haven't got any experience, but I'm really, I'm good. I'm gonna be, I'll probably be a champion in a couple of years or whatever. They're confident.
Yeah.
And then those people though, they get punched in the face for the first time, and you probably don't see them again.
No.
Because I think you've got to have a certain type of mental strength, certain type of personality, a bit of everything to be able to go to work every day and get punched in the face.
Exactly, yeah, 100%.
It's just like, and I say that as someone who doesn't get punched in the face very often. So it's like, it is difficult. What? How did you discover? How old were you when you first kind of went down the route of boxing?
So I was, to be precise, I was about 6.5.
That's early. Who's?
Yeah.
Someone else I was speaking to recently was quite early.
Yeah, so it was about 6.5.
Might have been Kane Shepherd.
Yeah. But me and Kane was similar, obviously similar ages. So when we hit the Welsh squad, we was together.
Ah, that's good.
So yeah, great. Kane's a great lad, and a top talent. So yeah, I was 6.5 when I started. Walked into a gym called Fleur de Lis first of all, and it was quite a lot of seniors, and there weren't many kids there. So I come from there. And then I think it was about 6 months on from that, I heard about Welsh Boxing Club. Asked my father, can I go and try there and see if it was similar, people boxers similar age to me. So I went up there, walked in the gym and seen Diagana there.
Mm-hmm.
A legend himself. Walked in, asked obviously my own man, approached Di and said that I was interested in starting boxing. From that day on, laced up a pair of gloves, and I loved it and I got hooked since. The week later I was watching sparring and tagging on Di's leg, saying I wanted to go in and spar. So he let me have a little mess about, but from that day I first walked in the Welsh Boxing Club. I got hooked to the sport and loved it ever since.
It's good stuff. Was there any other sports you were good at or interested in when you were a kid?
To be fair, I was into every sport. I was one of them kids who always done sport, and throughout school, when I come home from school, I was always out on the street playing football, down the park with the boys playing football. So I played football as well for. Must have started football when I was about 4. I had to finish when I was 15 to obviously lead on with boxing. But played for the likes of Merthyr.
Okay.
My local village
club. So you're quite
Turbo.
decent then?
Yeah, I weren't too bad.
Where did you play?
Midfield. So But I could
Right
play.
key.
Yeah, I could have played anywhere. To be fair,
Mm.
left midfield, left back, anywhere. To be fair, but yeah, enjoyed football, and it worked hand in hand. To be honest with you, the football developed my boxing fitness, and obviously my boxing fitness developed my football, and my cardio system, etc. But yeah, I ran for the school, then cross country. I think the only sport I didn't do was rugby, because I think that didn't link well with boxing, with injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kept away from the rugby, but loved every sport, got involved in everything. But yeah, the main sport was football and boxing until I was about 15. At the time, I was doing better in my boxing. I was traveling the world with Wales and stuff. So yeah, I felt I had a future in boxing over football.
Yeah.
That I was quite gutted to quit football, because I'd done it all my life, and it was good crack with the boys as well. It was something to switch off to on the weekend, something to look forward to on the weekend. Traveling around the country, going to different football tournaments, playing in all these football leagues. I enjoyed it, and it was a team sport as well. Do you know what I mean? Whereas boxing
it's
is
the changing room. You missed that camaraderie, and
it's quite a lonely sport, boxing, which I love anyway. But yeah, it's quite a lonely sport, so it was nice to switch off and be involved in a team sport on the weekends and stuff. But yeah, quit football when I was about 15 and led on with a boxing.
So there's a couple of boys, my youngest boys team, which we're actually going to be. What day are we? I just got to check before I say this. Yeah. So, because it'll be out by the time. We're following my boys, their under 15 team. Going to be filming their games. Got a little series coming out called Rise of the Panthers, which is going to be quite cool. But there's a couple of boys in his team who do boxing, and there's one boy who plays like defensive midfield, and he's like, he would say himself, like, he's not the most talented player on the team, but like, you ask my boy, who's one of the kind of like flair players, if you like, the attacking players, and you ask him out of the choices of like defensive midfielder, which one do you want behind you, and he'll say Callum all the time, because he's so fit. He just
it's work ethic.
Yeah, just does all the tackling, and he's so such an important part of the team. But like, you can see when he joined like at the start of last year to now, like over the summer and towards the end of last season, like where he's been doing boxing. Funny enough, in Kane's
St. Joe's.
Yeah, St. Joe's, and you see the difference in him, like the cardio and the fitness of him.
Go back to the resilience as well. When they're in a football game, when the going gets tough, when you get tired, there's some players who drop off. Where he has that resilience from the boxing, the work ethic from the boxing. We keep on working, keep on pushing. Because in boxing, if you drop off, then it's you who's going to get found out. Whereas football, if there's a few people, few players drop out, or drop back, or slack, or whatever, then you've got teammates to pick up from you. So that in itself, the resilience, like we said earlier,
it's why I think sport is so important to kids, because it teaches you the ability to push through. When you say you play football when you're like a young kid, like 6, 7, whatever, and then you get to a point where you're tired, and then you'll come off. But then as you get like through the age groups, your coach or your dad or your mum or whatever will say, no, come on, push through, you go to the end, or you finish, you got 2 minutes left or whatever, keep going, don't stop, and all the rest of it. And like, that's something which I think, whether you take up the sports professionally or you just play them casually, or even if you stop at like 16, 17 and then you go into your adult life, I think it's something which from a mentality point of view is so important, because look at the day I had before I got here. Like, it would have been so much easier to just go, that's today done.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's just sort out something next week, like, because it was just one thing after another.
Yeah.
But like, that would have been my last resort, and I feel like that a lot of that comes from sport, like just because I
not giving up.
I just find it difficult to just go, I'll just leave it, and it's like, no, let's not, let's like, until it's not possible, sort of thing. Was that a difficult? So, because you were good at football, obviously good at boxing, was that a long conversation or decision when you had to make that choice between football and boxing, or was it more of a boxing is more likely? So,
to be fair, it was more of a natural feeling. At the time, I was doing better than boxing. I could see more of a future in boxing, and people around me could see more of a future in boxing because of the success I was having at the time.
So, how old were you when you got in the Wales squad?
I was 10 when I got in the Welsh squad. Between 10 and 11. Because obviously you're going to have your first fight when you're 10.
How was it
I was between 10 and 11. You know, I got into the Welsh squad in my first year as an amateur. So, from then I was gaining a lot of success as a boxer. It all led up until I was 15, and I thought I think I was going into the youth age as a boxer. Things were stepping up. Training routine was stepping up and getting more intense. So it was hard to balance the two sports then. Of course, yeah. So then sat down with family, sat down with my parents, and thought I think it's time to step over to the boxing now, which was a tough decision. Like I said earlier, it was I enjoyed playing football, and it was one of them sports where I thoroughly enjoyed. But it had to be done for my own improvements, my own success, and my future aspirations. So so I sat down with my parents, sat down with a football coach, and I think the football coach in Lee Costa, he was gutted because obviously he coached me right the way through. It wasn't just like I had him as a coach for a year and then I moved on. He coached our team. And our local boys right the way through, from the village team in Turbiff Dynamos right the way up to Merthyr, and all the success we had as a football team, and we were quite successful. We won most of the leagues, won most cups. So I had a lot of history in football and in the team. So it was a gutting moment, but it led on to good things.
Yeah, it's one of them things which most lads, girls as well, I suppose now as well, like you get to like 14, 15, 16, you got to make a decision, because if you're doing well at football and you play for an academy, at that sort of age they start saying, right, you're not allowed to play for anyone else, so you're not allowed to play for your parks team and stuff like that. So you've got to make that commitment anyway to football, and if you're a fighter, you've got to dedicate your time and training to that, because as you get older, the training, I suppose, becomes more streamlined, doesn't it? Whereas when you're a young kid, I suppose it's more fitness, basic techniques, stuff like that. And then the one thing I was interested in, so like going back a long time, when I was like 15, 16, and I was in like the county squads and stuff for football and for cricket, is like the way they used to do it then is when you used to get into them, they would kind of contact your parents and say, he's in with a shot with this, or he's in this, and then they would contact you then after they'd spoken to your parents to sort of give you the phone call to say you've been selected for this, that and the other, and then after that you kind of just get the call to say there's a game, there's whatever. How's it work in boxing? Like, did you find out from your parents the first time you got called up to the Wales squad? Was it something that you kind of knew was coming, or is it something which you qualify for?
To be fair, they brought me in, obviously from a young age, they brought me into the camp where I was with all ages, youth, senior. So I think it was about 2 or 3 of us brought in from a schoolboy age, sorry. And it was just a general training camp on a weekend in Sapphire Gardens. And at that time, it weren't a specific assessment or anything, it was just, they were having a look at us. And from a young age, they took a shine to a couple of us young schoolboys. So we just stayed in the squad from there. The general assessment then would come from a GB squad. So we'd, as Wales, a few of us would go up to the GB squad. We'd get assessed over the weekend. It'd be a specific marking criteria, and that would be a general assessment. But in terms of the Welsh squad, they'd have a look at you throughout training. You'd have to tick boxes. And then they'd obviously put you into dual internationals. That's what I started off with. It weren't so much tournaments, because at the time but didn't have a busy schedule of multi-nation tournaments. These days they've obviously got multi-nation tournaments as well as European Championships, World Championships. Every month every other month. But at the time when I first went in the Welsh squad, it was more dual matches, so Wales England, Wales Ireland. So yeah, they'd keep an eye on you throughout training. If you're performing well, showing good fitness levels, showing good discipline, determination, showing that you want to be there and you want to excel in the sport, then yeah, they'd obviously keep you in the squad. So yeah, I got thrown in the deep end. I was obviously in with seniors as such. So yeah, that I think played effect in my progression as well. So, you know, it brought me on. You know, it allowed me to like look up to elite level amateur fighters from a young age. And I could notice them, right? I could look up to them and think, what are they doing? What can I learn from them as such? And yeah, from a young age, learned so much from the senior fighters, and that stood me in good stead then for these days.
Yeah, and I guess when you're training with elite fighters who are older than you as well, is this like it's like that saying that every day is a school day, but also like you get that as a teenager or a schoolboy age, like you're gonna learn so much from even just like a weekend camp or something like that, just from being around those people, how they conduct themselves. And I think as well, like particularly for teenagers who, you know, not necessarily for you, but like for a teenager who's never been in that situation, to go from school with his mates who does like boxing training and, you know, does tournaments and fights and whatever, to then go into this situation of a Wales camp, it is very beneficial to be able to see kids older than you or even older again and how they conduct themselves. Because I always remember when I went to play for Glamorgan for the first time in cricket, and I had bright orange, like bleach blonde hair and then dyed it like fire orange. I was a nightmare as a teenager, but I was also good at sport.
Yeah.
And I got picked because I was good, but I probably wouldn't have been picked like if I was just all right, if that makes sense. Like,
I agree with you.
because I was a bit of a nightmare. And then I remember the first first game I played, I sort of turned up and the coach pulled me aside and he was like, "Oh yeah, your hair is it's not how we do things." And I was just like, I think I kept it. I might have. I don't know if my dad maybe made me get rid of it, but like my point being is like I had no barometer or like guidance in terms of how to conduct myself in that situation.
Yeah.
So I was going from school with my mates and then, you know, just playing cricket for my club side and whatever, and then just going into this situation where you were expected to behave a certain way, conduct yourself a certain way, because we used to go travelling around, you know, we used to go up to Yorkshire for these tournaments and stuff, and when you go in these tournaments, you're like in this place called Ampleforth College, and it's like barracks almost, like, you know, all the teams are like staying in their own sort of room of just a row of beds, but you're talking like it's all the biggest club sides from around the country and teams from Scotland and that. So a lot of them are from like private schools, you know. So they're going in there and they're like very well behaved and very well organised. And then you've got like a group of boys from Wales who are like, yeah, you know, we were good on the pitch and that, but then we're also like 15, 16. Yeah. And like, oh, where's the nearest off licence so you can have a drink in the night and stuff. But we just didn't have any. There was no, like, so the year after I went with the older group, so I went in with the year above and didn't know anyone, and I was a different kid then, because I'm looking at these kids and they're like sort of 17 and I'm sort of 15, 16, and they're 17, they're in their eyes, they're looking at like, oh, if I'm good in this tournament, I'm going to maybe get a contract or someone's going to see me or whatever. So like they're conducting themselves on and off the pitch in a certain way, and that kind of opened my eyes a little bit at that point. I was probably, like, being honest, I probably wasn't good enough, or I say this a lot, like I think I was probably good enough at football, cricket maybe, but like I didn't have the mentality. So like I was more interested in my mates and girls.
Yeah.
And then my old man died when I was 16, and that was like I had no one to sort of push me through then.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like I used to say to my old man, like, I don't want to go training tonight with South Wales for football and that, and he'd be like, just get in the car. But then when that wasn't there, and then I say it to my mum, and she would feel sorry for me because my old man's died or whatever, and I'm 16, and she's like, oh yeah, go on then, you go to your mates and we'll just, And then before you know it, you've lost your place, and because it's just not there, you've got to have a certain mentality. But what were you like in terms of, with that side of things, in terms of like, obviously to be a professional sports person, athlete, fighter, you have to have so much dedication, but you also sacrifice so much from a young age, particularly I think in boxing, where if you have a strong amateur career in boxing, where you go into like the world championships and you're representing Wales and things like that, at a young age, like you sacrifice the nights out, the parties, all that sort of thing. Which,
to be fair,
the kids do,
the discipline I've been within, don't get me wrong, the family network I got is incredible, and it has been incredible from word go. And if I ever wanted to step off sport and go elsewhere or go on a different path, then they'd support me. You know what I mean? They won't push me to keep on doing sport or keep on doing boxing. They'd, think of my best interest as such. But yeah, the network I got is incredible, but the determination, the discipline, I've always been within. That may have come from a sporting background, but yeah, I've always been within. I've always been dedicated throughout school. I always remember I'd go to school and where I would, I'd be on a diet from a young age, like boxing and making weight in championships and stuff. All the boys would be there with their fresh hot food. I'd be there with my, chicken and rice, and that in itself is just.
Got to have a lot of discipline to do that.
You got to have now. When you like I said, you
as
miss.
a kid as well,
you miss out on going out for meals. You miss out on a lot of things like going away with the boys on lads' holidays. Going out the way on nights out. So yeah, it's a lifestyle. That's why they say it's a lifestyle, isn't it? It takes up a lot of your life, but I chose that pathway, and yeah, I've always, like, going back to the discipline, I've always been disciplined within, and I've always wanted to be successful, and I always pushed for that external reward. So yeah, I've always been with it, to be fair.
It's interesting, like you said about your family network and your parents and stuff. Like, obviously that is so vital to being able to get through those teenage years anyway without professional sport. And I think I find it interesting, particularly as a father now to like 3 teenage boys, there's a thin line between what you said, whereby if you chose you didn't want to pursue boxing or you wanted to do something else, they'd support you. But there's also a thin line between that and knowing when they just don't fancy it that night, and you've got to then sort of put your foot down and say, no, come on. It's training night, or it's this or it's that. Because they're kids, isn't it? They're teenagers, and they're tired, and their hormones are all over the place.
And to be fair, boxing training teaches you that discipline as well. Going out in dark mornings, early in the morning, dark nights, going out running on your own in the cold, wet rain. No one can really push you to do that if
you either want it or you don't.
Either want it, like you said, you either want it or you don't. You can't be pushed to go out running on your own. And the training is all individually, so it's not you going as a team. It's not a set structure. It's not a set plan or set session. You got to go there and train on your own. You got to go for a run on your own. So you've got to have that level of discipline or determination, to get the training done. If you don't get the training done, then you get found out in the ring. And that's the bottom line of it, really. That's where the commitment has got to come in place.
Yeah, it's one of them things as well, isn't it? Like, you're only cheating yourself as well if you don't do it, or you cheat on your diet, or you miss a run, or whatever it is. You're not cheating anyone else but yourself with that.
Exactly, yeah.
And funny enough, with that team which we're going to be following now, a lot of them this summer have taken it upon themselves to do like additional training. So like my boy's been going over the field and doing a lot of shooting practice and some sprints and all this different stuff, like early in the morning as well, like 7 in the morning in the summer holidays. And I'd say to him, like, you know, that's what you need. You need that dedication, that commitment. Yeah. But it was funny because him and this other lad, Ashton, he was my mate's son. He was going for a run like 5 o'clock in the morning, and me and his old man sort of did like a little video clip or whatever and put it in their team's WhatsApp group. And then within 2 weeks, there was just all these videos of like, you know, like 7 or 8 of them all doing their own little thing of going for a run, bit of extra practice. But you can see a massive difference now as the season comes around. And I think that mental goes back to what we were saying though about sport generally, isn't it? As kids, like it gives you something which you don't get from other hobbies. Yeah. Like you can have another hobby, whether it's technology or computers or whatever, like book club, I don't know. Yeah. But like, it'll give you might have commitment and you might have focus and things like that, which you'll get from it. But I don't think it gives you the same competitive edge and mental strength that sport gives you. Do you so how did you handle the pressure then of going up to those assessments for the GB ones? Because that's like another step up, and you know you're being assessed as well. Yeah.
To be fair, I handled it quite well. I just took it in my stride, like I do these days. You know, take everything in my stride. As long as I conduct myself well, put the work in, like I said. Stay disciplined. I feel that, you know, your talent will then come through, and everything else will take care of itself. So as long as the key things, the essential things are covered, then I think, and that's my way forward as such, you know, making sure I'm disciplined, make sure I'm committed, make sure I'm living a life, make sure I'm not cutting no corners, and then, you know, your talent will come through. And if you didn't have the talent, then you won't be in that position in the first place. So I clearly, you know, I had the talent to box for Wales. So as long as I conduct myself well and continued with our hard work, determination, then, you know, the results would have, you know, spoke for themselves. Yeah. So that's why I had, you know, mentally, that's what kept me mentally focused. And to be fair, I weren't intimidated by anything. Obviously, you get them nerves. You always get them nerves. But you know, I was going up there. I was sparring the best boys on the GB squad. You know, your Pat McCormack, your Troy Williamson at the time. Do you know what I mean? At the time, on the podium squad. Your Luke McCormack, your Dalton Smith. These are top level fighters. So I was going up there from a young age, sparring the likes of them. You know, don't get me wrong, the nerves were like I was going to a fight, were probably worse than going to a fight. But that's what I think have stood me in good stead now for fighting these days, and, you know, future fights. You know, I've been there and I've experienced them feelings of competing at the highest level as an amateur, and that will, you know, give me the benefits going forward now.
With so you know, like, so when you go up to that, like the GB stuff, and they're assessing you, I'm interested now. This might be a really stupid question, so forgive me if it is. But like, say you've got a fighter, right, who's not technically the best fighter. Like his technique might be not as tight as everyone else's and not as good as everyone else's, but he's just got something special about him whereby he just wins all the time, no matter whether it's, you know, amateur and points or knockouts or whatever. Would they mark it, like, would they mark you as like your technique?
Yeah, so they'd have a list of criterias. They'd have a big criteria, a list of things like adaptability, your endurance, your work ethic, all them listed. Is about 20 different things listed. So then, if I remember, you get marked on a system of like gold, amber, red, or whatnot. Yeah. So they'll obviously rate you or mark all them different criterias, and then you'll have an overall kind of grade, and then obviously all the coaches sit around, compare you with maybe other fighters your weight, the other fighters on the assessment, weigh it all up as such, and then they'll make a decision whether they want to bring you onto the podium potential, or maybe I think is you have like 3 assessments and then they might take you on. So yeah, you'll take on your first assessment, mark on that criteria. If they think you're good enough to come on another assessment, they'll have another look at you, and if they think you're good enough, they'll put you on the podium potential. If not, they might say go back to your national team, work for another year, give you some feedback, and then bring you back for another assessment. See if you've made any improvements. See if you're good enough, or to get onto that GB squad, and then go from there. So yeah, that's the process that they go through.
It's quite interesting. I think as well. I think there's something to that as well. Is if someone's not quite up to the required level there and then, but you can see something in them.
Yeah. Is
having the ability to say, right, this is what you need to work on. Come back to us in a year, because you can see how much work someone's done in that time.
Yeah.
And if they've really addressed what you've said, you need to work on this, and this, and they come back a year later, and they've improved generally with age and stuff, but they've really addressed the things that you've pointed out. That says so much about someone's dedication, their personality.
They've took on that educated feedback, and they've worked on it. They've showed, like we said, they work ethic, their commitment to work on them different things, going back to the gym, working on them different criterias, and they've come back stronger. So it shows that they've got that determination and that commitment within to go and work on that stuff. Whereas if it was on the other side, then vice versa, and you give them that educated feedback, but didn't take them on, then they could have went, nah, look at this, I don't wanna box no more, or I don't wanna. Their head could drop, and they could give up the sport, but they used it as fuel to motivate 100%. Them to work on them negative points, or that feedback, and come back stronger, which is even better, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%. And like, you can also you can have it in other sports as well, where you might have a point where you're told you're not good enough, or you need to work on this, come back, or we'll have a look at you in the future. And like, how you react in that moment to that constructive criticism. Because some kids, some parents, I've seen it particularly in football, when they get told, oh, your kids, unfortunately, they're gonna have to be dropped, or they're not quite up to this standard or whatever, and they'll give them some feedback, and they'll react very negatively, shall we say, because people don't necessarily want to hear it. But like, actually, is to me, and it's what I've tried to say to my boys all the time, is like, if someone's telling you something about your sporting ability, whether it's good or bad, listen to them, because you can learn from what they're saying. Even if they're telling you you're great at everything,
100%.
You can still learn from it. And I think, particularly in those situations, like if someone's telling you in that situation, in the the GB squad sort of assessments, the person who's telling you that knows what they're talking about. So you either take it on board and go and work on it, and maybe come back stronger, or you kind of go, you write it off, and and you're only kidding, you're only hurting yourself then, isn't it?
Exactly. I kind of refer to it as like not positive feedback and negative feedback. I kind of refer to it as positive feedback and constructive feedback. So it's not putting you down, it's things you just need to adapt on, or need to evolve on and change. That's what makes me feel better mentally as well, is if a coach picks up on something, right, if you do this, if you sharpen up on this, or do this a different way, then I've referred to as constructive feedback, and it's not changing you to refer to boxing, it's not changing you as a fighter, it's just like adapting, like I said, and sharpening our pencil. Do you know what I mean? Because if they were trying to change you as a fighter, you should have been, you should have the talent to be there anyway. They shouldn't have to change you as a. If you get what I mean, they shouldn't have to change you as a fighter.
Fundamental part of you. It's just adapting little things
and
tweaks, as it were.
That's it.
So obviously, we bumped into each other up in Abergavenny. Was it about a month ago?
Yeah.
Something like that. 6 weeks maybe. Which was cool. It was good to see you. And there were some good fights on that card. There. Obviously, Kane was, I thought, the most impressive individual on the evening. He kind of beat that guy to a pulp.
Yeah.
But obviously, Kyran had a disappointing result, but it was a good fight. But you got your fight coming up now on Saturday, so as we film this, so 2 days. So you travel to York all tomorrow then, is it?
Yeah, travel tomorrow. Travel up tomorrow morning, early doors, get up there, get settled, get my whereabouts, and weigh-in's not till Saturday on the day weigh-in. Unfortunately, I'd love to weigh in tomorrow, but Saturday's the weigh-in, and then Saturday night's the fight. So thought go up tomorrow. I'm not stuck in the car then Saturday. Stuck up in that car on the journey, and then get out tired legs, weigh in, and then fight straight away. So I can get up a nice and early, have a good night's sleep, and then I'm ready to go up there.
Yeah, don't really sat in traffic, do you?
No, that's not what you want on fight day, is it?
No. What about so you mentioned like the butterflies and the nerves, which are natural to get. Like, tell me about the difference between weighing in Saturday and weighing in tomorrow.
To be
as
fair,
a fighter.
For me, it's not much difference, because I feel out, is how you prepare for a fight, is how you make the weight as such. My weight management is normally quite good, so my weight's good now. My weight have been good throughout camp. So whether I weigh in a day before or on the day, as long as I'm fighting at the right weight, and I'm not struggling too much on the day, then it don't really make a difference. If anything, it'll make me sharper, because I haven't got them extra hours to eat what I want. I'm still eating healthy, do you know what I mean? So it don't necessarily make a difference. I'm at the right weight, and I'm making it comfortably. So I'll be going in the ring strong, and it won't take me long to put on or refuel as such after the weigh-in on Saturday afternoon. So it won't make a difference.
What's the difference between what you walk around at normally and what you fight at?
To be fair, I don't go much above my weight. So I'm fighting at just under super middleweight. Eventually, I'll be coming down to middleweight at a championship fight. But with it being on a day weigh-in, I'm fighting at about 11 stone 12. Whereas the middleweight limit for any title fights or day before weigh-ins would be 11.6. So 11.12. Out of camp, I'd be 12.8 max, so I don't go much above, and I'd come down from that 12.8 to say 12.2 quite comfortably in within two weeks, if that. So I don't go much above my weight. I try and keep it at a certain percentage over. Like we said earlier, boxing is a lifestyle, and for me to not go too much over my weight, I'm thinking I'm training well, and maintaining a positive, healthy lifestyle.
So in between fights, then you don't go too wild in.
No, don't get me wrong. I have a blowout. A week or two. If
what do you enjoy the most? Like after you've had that sort of fight and you've done the camp, and what's your favourite thing to sort of?
To be fair, is eating some nice food. And just enjoying the time off. Really enjoying spending time with family, spending time with my girlfriend, and spending time with friends. You miss out on a lot of that when you're in camp. Like we said, boxing is a lifestyle, and it takes up so much of your life. So the main thing is obviously eating nice food where you miss out on, but spending quality time with family and friends. And that's the main thing really, is just spending that quality time when you can't do as much as that when you're in camp.
Does your girlfriend help you much with your eating and that?
Oh, massively,
You must have days where you're like, I'm really hungry. Like, I just want to eat a kebab or something.
But to be fair, we got a good structure kind of process in place. She does make sure my meals are all prepped. And so does my family and that. So make sure my meals are all prepped and stacked in the fridge. So then I can't go off and eat anything else. When you come home from training and there's nothing in the fridge,
you just need something
no meal
straight away, don't you?
Whereas my missus, she'd make sure the meals are planned, fair play to her, and make sure they're in the fridge as such. So I'm coming home, or sometimes I take my food to the gym, and I got that meal there then, so there's no excuse then to eat off plan. So yeah, she's great in that, you know, in that sense. And like I said, with the time and that, boxing takes so much of your time up, and there's no questions from her like, you know, when are we going to see each other, or when are we going to do this, when are we going to do that. There's no moaning, there's no groaning. The only questions I have from her is, how can I help? And that's, you know,
can't fault you, mate.
I can't fault that, and you know, she's a great asset to the team, I should say, and yeah, can't fault that.
Mate, behind every great man, there's often a good woman.
100%, yeah, 100%.
Because it's funny, like, so much of fucking social media these days is like just moaning about something, whether it's men or women or like against marriage or for marriage. It's so like everything's just negative. It's just, doesn't matter what, like, where you stand on anything. It's just constant bombardment of this, like, oh, this is negative. But like for me, like, I've been with my missus 21 years or 20 years now. I should know that really, but 20. And so we've been married since 2008. But like we've had so many like ups and downs with stuff that just happens. Like I had a car accident and stuff like that, which obviously were unplanned. And like I wouldn't have been able to get through that without her.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to juggle my health and then doing a podcast and being able to grow it and being able to come in here and things like that. Even today, like with the fucking tyre and shit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
She was about like, and I think, so like my thing is always like, instead of people being like, oh, this is bad or that's bad or they're bad or this is bad, I just say like, find yourself a person who like doesn't stress you out and helps you achieve what you want to achieve, sort of thing.
Yeah. Or support you in that.
Yeah.
In that way.
Because I think if you've got a person who you can kind of go home to and it's not like a stress or like in your situation where you spend so much time doing boxing or training or like something to do with boxing, whether it's your diet or your strength and conditioning or going for a run early in the morning or we can't go out for food tonight because I've got a fight coming up. I got to be up at 4 to go for a run, you know, whatever it may be. Like if your like other half is giving you sort of not grief, but like is sort of like, oh well, I want to go out or I want to do this or I want to do that. It's like an added pressure on it to something which is already difficult to achieve.
It's kind of a negative influence then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because is that, like you said, is that added pressure.
Because then you can leave the gym and you're going to be like, oh.
Yeah. Whereas if you're surrounded by positive attitudes, I think is influence on you then to train harder for the times you have after the fight then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And then when you do get that spare time after the fight or whatever, you're more inclined to, I think, then go, right, you know, we've done a camp for 8 weeks or whatever, let's go on holiday or for a week or let's go and do something.
That's what I think,
But
if you know, it feels like you deserve it, that type of thing, doesn't it? Because you've done them 8-12 week camps, like this camp now for this fight Saturday. It's been about 15-16 weeks, so it's been a long camp. So you look forward to then, you know, having the time off afterwards, or having the week off, rest, going out for a bit of food. Feels like you deserve it then, you've earned it type thing. Yeah. And that's the good thing I like about the sport. You know, you knuckle down, you have that structure in place, you have that training camp in place, you work hard, and then you get the rewards after the fight.
You a big drinker, like someone who drinks a lot after fights and stuff? Or?
No, not really. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy a few drinks with you know, going out with the boys and stuff, and a few drinks over a meal. But you know, I'm not a huge drinker. You know, I enjoy a few. You know, I catch it with friends and stuff. But I wouldn't say I'm
like
a big
binge, like
no
3 days of party.
No, no. I'm not a binge drinker, and I'd rather a quiet few drinks over a meal or
I'm like I don't drink now actually really at all, like maybe like a couple of pints a year if that. But I will drink. Like, I'll go out and meet like a handful of mates, and I drink 0% alcohol these days, which is wild to me. Like, because if you'd seen me, you know, I don't know, 15 years ago, you'd never have thought that was going to ever be the case. But it's just, I don't know, it's just something which has developed with me in my older age, I guess. But also, like, my older boy is 18, and he's kind of just discovering drinking, I guess. Like, in terms of, like, he's old enough to do it, he's old enough to go to the pub. And I'm quite glad that I don't drink as much as I used to, because now he hasn't kind of grown up with me just constantly, like, getting home in the night or whatever, and first thing I do is, like, drink and stuff like that. So it just, I don't know, it's fatherhood, mate. It just spoils all your fun. No, how did you meet your missus?
On social media. So
that's very modern, isn't it?
Social media is quite the modernised thing at the moment, isn't it? So yeah, we followed each other on, I think it was Instagram to be precise. Started speaking, met up a couple of weeks later, and the rest is history.
God, you're brave, innit? Meeting someone on the internet.
To be fair, it was quite natural as well. It was quite.
Could have ended up in someone's boot, you could have, couldn't it? It's like kidnapped, like.
But yeah, social media.
It's do you know what? Here you are then. Just a random question away from boxing. I was so I'm 41, and like, I met my wife in a pub. She'd worked in my local pub, so, like, in the olden days when there was no social media and phones, but, like, no social media and dating apps and all this shit which you see now. Do you think, like, things like social media and TikTok and dating apps, like particularly like Tinder and stuff like that, where it's literally around casual encounters, do you think that's killed the kind of younger generation? Because you're still quite young, aren't you?
Yeah.
So like, do you think that's killed the, like, meeting people and communicating with strangers? And I suppose it's different for you because you probably speak to strangers quite often, but
yeah, I think it's less natural now. It's all done virtually now, isn't it? And over text, over like FaceTime, if you want to say. Whereas old school was, you had to meet up, didn't you? You had to meet up and
speak to someone.
So yeah, I think it's a slower process now as such. Because obviously you speak in and whereas
if you don't know someone,
but if you met up straight away, then you'd get to know each other better, I think.
Yeah, you do. But then I suppose there's
it's a good question,
danger aspect. Then I
suppose
exactly. If you don't know someone, innit?
That's it, innit? Yeah.
Start meeting them.
That's
Could be anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the last song you listened to?
Last song? Oh, good question. To be fair, I don't listen to a lot of music. Well,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
most fighters do listen to music a lot. Like.
I don't listen to a lot. I like a bit of dance music. Dance mainly. But yeah, I don't listen to a lot of music. So yeah, that's a tough question.
So we'll say like a blanket of dance music.
Yeah.
What was the first song that you ever remember kind of hearing or being into or whatever, like when you were little?
Gotta be because I used to love the Rocky films. Gotta be Eye of the Tiger, because I was obviously boxing. I used to go with my friends all the time and just watch the whole box set. It wasn't just one episode. We'd watch the whole box set, and it takes about a day, and then I'd go back in the day after and we'd watch it all again. So yeah, Eye of the Tiger, I used to get up, shadow box in his house, and it used to be great. So yeah, I'd say Eye of the Tiger, and whenever it comes on now, it gives me goosebumps because it relates to boxing and it relates to them childhood memories of going in to watch Rocky. And
what's the worst Rocky film out of the originals? Is it 5 or 6?
Yeah.
5. How many is there in the original ones? 5, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd say the last one maybe. Yeah.
Definitely 5.
Yeah.
And then, have you watched the new ones, like Creed?
I have watched them, but you know what's going to happen now, don't you?
Yeah.
Because from the Rocky,
there's so many stories you can tell.
Basically, copyright the Rocky in there, so yeah, you know what's coming. Don't get me wrong, they're brilliant films, and I do enjoy them, and I watched them all. But yeah, they got nothing on Rocky, I don't think.
Yeah, I think so. They made the new Rocky, didn't they? Or did they make Creed and then they made the new Rocky and then the second?
Yeah,
Creed?
yeah.
So like, I like the first Creed. I think that's really good, and it's quite unique.
Yeah.
It's got its own unique story.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I think the newest Rocky, the one which is more modern times, like I didn't really even think that much of that one. I thought it was a bit shit. Like, but then the second Creed, like I think I agree with you. It's like a bit predictable, like
Yeah.
and also not having Sylvester Stallone in it.
Yeah.
They will, by not getting him back in, there was like a hole in it. Like not just because it's Rocky, or like the Rocky world.
Yeah.
But I felt like there was a hole in it because you'd finished the first one and the Rocky films, where they were like super tight.
Yeah.
And like he had met his woman and like they were all like so close.
Yeah.
And then suddenly in the second Creed film, like Sylvester Stallone's like nowhere to be seen, not mentioned, and it just felt weird. Like,
Yeah.
It was like a plot hole, innit?
Yeah.
What's your favourite thing to do, like in your off time? Like, are you someone who goes to the cinema or just watch a bit of films, watching movies?
I like going for
Netflix?
a walk, especially in camp as well. Love going for a walk, grabbing a coffee, getting a bit of fresh air. A beach walk I like is best. Yeah.
Yeah, I like a beach.
Beach walk, getting a bit of fresh air, grabbing a coffee, and just chilling really. Just don't watch a lot of telly. Like taking a dog for a walk.
Not one for Love Island then, no?
To be fair, I am. I love yeah, I do like it. I think it's only because I was in camp. To be fair, I was something to watch in the night when I was bored. But I actually got hooked on it. To be fair, and but I like going for walks, just getting fresh air, and just
just a bit of fresh air. That's the way to go.
Can't be thinking of.
No,
Especially after tough days training as well.
What about where would your if you could buy a house anywhere, and it was going to be your last house you'd ever have, so you're literally going to live there forever. Money's no object.
Yeah.
Where would you like to move to?
I'd have to go somewhere like Australia. I think.
Yeah. Do you know what pisses me off about Australia is the spiders and shit.
Yeah. I obviously went to the Gold Coast with the Commonwealth. And there's no place like it. It was incredible. Like we mentioned about the beach, loved doing beach walks. Went down to the beach for the first time, and looking off into the sea, it was like looking at a photo. It was lovely.
Just incredible.
And the weather was incredible. The people out there were so nice. And yeah, they were. It was really nice out there. Really nice.
Okay. I think I would go with anywhere but a beach, really.
Yeah.
I'd like to live on the beach. Like when we go up to the Nap in Barry, I look at those properties just by the beach, and I'm like, I could live there.
Yeah.
And then saying that, my son's going to university up in Carmarthen, and we had to drop him there for like a open day or whatever. And we were like, right, let's go find a beach, and there's like a beach up there, and there's all these little tiny little cottages, but they're like right on the the only thing which splits the beach and the houses is just like a little car park.
Yeah.
And I was saying to my missus, like, that one's for sale, but just like this little cottage, and it's like a little balcony overlooking the beach. I was like, kids are nearly grown up now. We don't need a big house.
Okay, I do like West Bay as well, mind. The front by Puffcoal, just past Puffcoal.
Yeah.
With the houses on the front. I've always every time I drive past there, I think, imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine
just
that.
wake up every morning
with a nice glass windows. Yeah, just that view.
Yeah.
Nice coffee on the balcony.
Exactly. That,
something
mate.
else in it.
That's the way to go. Let's play a little game then, just quickly. This weekend is Chris Eubank versus Liam Smith.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to win?
I think it's going to be a repeat. I think Smith's going to beat him again. I just think.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know Eubank is quite unpredictable, but I just think Smith is that slightly better in every department. I think he's that slightly technically better. And I think when we go back to coming through boxing the old traditional route, I think Smith have done it that way. You've come through the ABAs, come through obviously the professional ranks the right way. I think that will have the upper hand on this fight. Don't get me wrong, Eubank, he's a great fighter, speed, power. He's obviously made the change over to a different trainer now, and he's surrounded by great fighters.
Yeah.
Crawford, for example. So yeah, he's obviously surrounded by great knowledge, but I just don't think that will change him enough to beat Smith. I think it'll go longer this fight, but I think Smith will either have Eubank out there early, or I think it may be Smith on points.
Do you think there's any element with Eubank of he's kind of, and it's not criticism of him, by the way, it's just I think it's like a thing which just naturally happens in some cases, whereby he's kind of made his money. He's perhaps not really gonna, because of his age, is probably not gonna sort of really push on and do anything. Like further on in terms of like really challenging for those kind of those elite level fights, I guess, if you like on a world level. I mean, like, do you think there's an element of that maybe with him, whereby he hasn't got the same perhaps fire that he had when he was younger and he was coming up?
I think so. Yeah, I think the fire's gone out of him slightly. It looks as if, or sounds as if, he's talking his way into fights now, rather than his performance is showing it, if you get what I mean. So yeah, I think he's the last 2 years, I'd say he's been a bit in no man's land. We've had a few changes in trainers, and he's just trying to get that right. I don't know, he's just trying to just missing that something, isn't he? Whereas Smith, he's surrounded by a great team, he's thriving on that team. Got a brilliant relationship. He's home up in Liverpool, and he just seems to be in a good place. Seems to be peaking, even though he's in his 30s now. He seems to be peaking, and from his last few performances, he's a solid, educated fighter, isn't he? Very, and I think people underestimate his boxing ability.
Yes,
don't get me wrong. He's got his, he's tough. We all know what Smith brings. He's tough, strong, durable. But I think his educated pressure, his educated boxing is second to none. I was obviously Liam Williams fought him, and Liam Williams is in camp with us now. You know, he's saying he's such an intelligent fighter. He's switched on, and I think people do underestimate his boxing ability, because people were saying about. I actually noticed the press conferences at the media build up to this second fight. People saying about Eubank changing, being a bit more slicker, boxing Smith, but Smith's going to adapt now as well, and Smith can show his boxing ability if Eubank makes them changes. Smith got the ability to make them changes, whereas they're saying, can Smith change as a fighter? Whereas I think he can.
Yeah. What about Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua? Who do you think takes that home?
I think Deontay Wilder, only on the last few performances as well. Anything can happen in every boxing, can't it? They both big punchers, so it could go down to who lands first maybe. But Anthony Joshua looked a bit gun-shy in his last fight, didn't he? Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of messing.
Do you know what, mate? I think Anthony Joshua, one day, someone is going to write a paper on him. He's such a fascinating dude, like, because if you go back and watch his early fights, like the aggression and the will to just knock people out was like scary. Like. And then ever since that Ruiz fight, I just think he's never
been the same fight, Derby.
Mentally, like, I don't think it's a physical thing. I think it's a mental thing, whereby he lost a fight that he never dreamed he was going to lose, and not just lost it, by the way, he lost it convincingly. And
it's a shame, really, because Anthony Joshua, he has a lot of stick, but he's the
role model, mate.
The main role model who brought big time boxing to big shows to
100%, mate.
to the UK. Ever since the London Olympics, he's brought that big. He's been that icon, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's been that figure.
Never failed the drug test, never been arrested.
Exactly. So, he has all the stick.
Never done drugs, whatever it may be.
And he still brings big nights to the UK. So you got to take his hat off. Take your hat off to him for that. and I hope he does beat Deontay Wilder, because a fellow Brit. I look up to someone like Anthony Joshua. He's a great fighter, but his last few performances, I think, have been a shadow of himself. And like you said, he's ever since that Ruiz fight, he's never been the same. He
looks now like,
I believe
to me,
he's gone a bit gun shiny. Not like we said about Eubank in no man's land. I think when you look into Anthony Joshua, like, he looks a bit lost, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? And he's not he hasn't been his old self, which is a shame. And I hope he does fight Wilder and pulls it off, but I can't see it.
I just think in his last couple of fights, particularly, I think he looks like a guy who's got one foot out in terms of, like, even if he's not thinking seriously about retiring, I just think he looks like a guy who's at least thought about retiring.
Yeah.
And I think once you think about retiring as a boxer or as a fighter, that's where it can kind of be a problem, because you've got one eye on the door,
exactly.
and then mistakes can happen.
And like we said earlier about being committed and having that physical and mental resilience and such, and that work ethic, you've got to be 110% into the sport, don't you? You've got to put your work in. Whereas, like you said, if you've got that one eye out of the sport, you physically can't put 110% in, because you always got that thought in the back of it.
I always think as well, right, is like what we said about Chris Eubank, he's made his money. Anthony Joshua is like a multi-millionaire, generational wealth. His kids will never have to work.
Yeah.
And like Conor McGregor, the same. Like when Conor McGregor was coming up through the ranks, like he was fighting trying to get to the top to eat and to, they were living on benefits and his wife's part-time wage and stuff like this. Starving and fighting their way, like you're like fighting for every scrap in you, and then like he's got so much money now, I think it becomes so much more difficult to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you've got 10 million in the bank or a Ferrari yacht sat outside your villa or whatever. It's just more difficult now.
Of course it is, It's that external reward where you're fighting for what is there, innit? So, like, what else have we got to work for in their minds? Like, what? So, like you said, it's naturally to wake up and think, that what have I got to work for type thing,
And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because, like, if Joshua was to go and have the level of, like, aggression and the will to want to knock Deontay Wilder out, I think he's capable of doing it, because I think Deontay Wilder is susceptible to a good boxer. But if he gets caught, if he's not 100% with his plans and his traps and everything which goes into a boxing camp, Deontay Wilder will knock you out like 1-2 punches.
Yeah, he's a dangerous fighter.
And I think I don't see, for instance, Anthony Joshua getting up like Tyson Fury got up in that famous clip.
Yeah.
I don't see. In fairness, I don't see any other fighter on the planet getting up from those shots in the way that he did. Where do you stand on Tyson Fury and fighting Francis Ngannou next instead of a Usyk or a Joshua?
I've always been a big fan of Tyson Fury. His talent, his boxing ability. I would have loved to have seen him against Usyk rather than Francis Ngannou. But
it's a nothing fight.
Obviously, exactly. His money in it. When we talked about them influencers and YouTubers,
that's what it is, though.
Similar sort of thing in it. Do you know what I mean? It's not a fight everyone wanted to see. The fight people wanted to see was Fury against Usyk, because it was a pound for pound classic.
And then second choice was like Joshua Fury.
Exactly. Like
ultimately, no one wants to see him.
Similar to Crawford and Spence, it was a classic, and we should have seen that Fury and Usyk, and I hope it does come off before they both, become on that plateau kind of.
Well, unfortunately, my biggest criticism with boxing compared to MMA is the big fights, the real big fights. They avoid each other until they're past their prime. Whereas in MMA, quite often you will get those. The best will fight the best.
And I think,
and that's why I enjoyed Ryan Garcia versus Tank the other month, because they seemed to get it done so quick.
Yeah,
it was like, I want to fight you, you want to fight me. Let them sort out the money, and that's what it should be, innit?
Exactly. And I think there's too many belts in boxing at the moment as well. I think that's another comparison with UFC.
They could do with condensing the different boards, I think, into
rather than
one overall.
Yeah.
And
That's it, isn't it?
very quickly, mate. Sorry, just to finish. Low blow the other day for the Usyk and Dubois fights. Where do you stand with that? 'Cause it was a weird one.
When I was watching the fight and in the moment, I thought it was borderline. So, I thought it wasn't a low blow, to be fair. But then I'm seeing photos now. There's loads of talk of the waistband coming above the belly button or below. At the moment of the fight and when I watched the highlights back, it seemed to be, the shorts seemed to be below the belly button. But then when I watched it seemed to be above the belly button. Sorry, below.
Yeah.
Above, but then when I watched it back, it was below, so it looked as if it was a low blow. So I don't know whether some photos were edited. I'm not sure, but
it's difficult to see in it after when you see these things on social media.
I see arguments both ways, but
so let me put it another way for you then. If you got it with that blow, would you be disappointed, or would you be like claiming it as or would you think it was a low? I don't think he helped himself by rolling around as if he'd been in the nuts.
I would have.
I think we all agree he didn't get it in the nuts.
I would have obviously made that type of reaction, but I think I would have made the referee aware that it was a low blow. Walked off to the corner, stayed on my feet to show that I weren't necessarily hurt with.
Not saying you've been smashed in.
But it looked as if he got caught with a body shot and he went down the way he was breathing. Do you know what I mean? It looked as if. So I could see the argument that side of it, but I wouldn't have reacted, as that much like.
The funniest thing I seen on social media in the days after that was, so Kyran Gibbons put up like a little video clip of it, and he said this and this. I can't even remember what he said, but he said I think he said this is why it was low, per the rules and this and that, and he showed a clip, and then in the comments you had Liam Williams, and you had Gary Lockett giving their opinion, and then. This guy, it was just a guy, like just a boxing fan or whatever, said something like, I don't know if it was directed at Liam or Gary, basically said just like a laughing emoji or whatever, and just saying, what do you know about boxing? And I was just like, fucking hell, mate. Like, know your audience. Jesus
exactly.
Christ. But I don't know. It's just one of them. I think he didn't help himself with his reaction, but ultimately, he doesn't have to get smashed in the balls for it to be a low blow.
Yeah.
But also, I think by his reaction, it looked like the reaction of someone who had been hit with a body shot, like in the sort of appendix area sort of thing, rather than someone who had been. And the other thing is, if you get hit in the nuts, mate, that's not how you react.
No, exactly. You can see the arguments both ways, can't you?
Yeah, I can understand Dubois, but I also think Dubois has been very clever in the after sort of thing, because he's going to get a rematch, he's going to get paid more in a rematch, and I don't really think he deserves a rematch, if I'm being honest, but they've built up enough controversy with it that now people will accept it.
And that's what they'll continue to do now, even if they believe it weren't a low blow, they're going to continue to build that controversy up.
That's what so his management should.
Yeah, exactly.
That's their job, and
I wanted the bar to pull it off, to be fair. He was against the odds, but it was a one-sided fight when Usyk, I thought, was well ahead.
From that moment on, he just took
100%. Don't get me wrong, the bar at his moments in the fight, man, he was catching Usyk with more shots than I thought he would. But Usyk was always in control, wasn't he?
Yeah, I thought Usyk looked like, and they said this on, Michael said this on the show, like he said, he looked like a guy who had not really trained to take his opponent that seriously, like as if he was, not that he hasn't trained, but like that he was going in thinking, probably like Joshua did to Ruiz, like I'm gonna win this, come on, and almost looking past that fight is like they were probably both looking towards Fury, like Joshua was looking through Ruiz towards Fury, and maybe Usyk was looking a bit past Dubois towards Fury, but such is life, mate. Thank you for coming in. It's been a good chat, mate. It's been all over the place today. Been talking all sorts, but it's been good, mate. I'll put Kieran's social media and everything, merch, tickets, everything will be in description below. So give him a follow, follow on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. And is there anything you'd like to plug? Obviously, this is going to come out after your fight, so you can't really plug that. But.
So yeah, massive thanks to all my sponsors. So many the list. Yeah, without them guys, none of this would be possible. Their support is incredible, and yeah, huge thanks to them guys. Huge thanks to everyone who bought tickets for my fight, and I got over 100 people travelling up to London from the Valley, so huge credit to them spending their hard-earned cash to come up. And yeah, thanks for all the support, everyone tuned into my fight on Saturday. And yeah.
Do you know who done the logo on that?
My logo?
Yeah, I like it.
I think it was my missus done it.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's cool, isn't it?
She done it. Yeah, designed
Cool.
it.
Do you sell all t-shirts with it on as well? There?
Yeah, so I'll put another in, order in soon.
Man. Also guys, this show is brought to you by patreon.com/ACEPodcastNation. Keeps the channel going, keeps the lights on. Literally the price of a bag of chips per month, and you get exclusive content and shows and all that sort of stuff, discount on merch, but it keeps the lights on, keeps us going, allows us to speak to people like Kyran in I'm going to call you Kyran now.
Steve.
And also guys, there'll be details below. My brother is doing a run in Bristol raising money for Crohn's and colitis. If you want to take a look and support it, then please do, because it's something which is close to my heart, because I got Crohn's. Nice one, see you next week.
Only thing showing is late, be the freak show. Call for your cum, I be checking through the peephole. Everything closed this late, but your contacts. Here to catch a vibe, you might catch a little contact. Only thing showing this late, be the freak show. Call for your cum, I be checking through the peephole. Everything closed this late, but your contact. Here to catch a vibe, you might catch a little contact. Baby, live it up, you know the work week coming. Turn it into profit so that